Here's Terry Haddock and David Grubnic. Well, as we look at David Grubnic, these 500 cubic inch top fuel and funny car engines put out 8,000 horsepower. You can imagine that means they also use lots of fuel. In this week's Grubby's Garage, Dave Grubnic shows us just how thirsty these nitro cars can be.
One of the things we're always talking about out here is how much fuel these nitro engines use. Well, what I'd like to talk about today is how much fuel they use idling. When they first start these engines, you'll see the crew chiefs up at the start line adjusting this shut-off valve. What they're doing is setting the pressures and flows to where this engine is running smoothly and nice at idle. Now, this engine will use approximately 2.7 to 3 gallons of fuel at idle. That's a nice temperature, and it's got that crisp sound. But one of the last things we do as a driver when we pull into the starting beams is we'll turn this pump to full on. And then that'll turn those shutoffs on completely, which will stop bypassing fuel. This engine will go from approximately 2.7 gallons up to over 5 gallons per minute. That's why you'll hear the sound change and the note of the engine change just before we leave the start line. Now, what we're doing there is pretty much flooding this engine with fuel. So the instant we hit those butterflies, this thing explodes to life. And it's very prevalent at night, where you'll see that mist of fuel coming out of that engine, but as soon as those blades open, instant flames.
Well, we'll listen for that noise now. Terry Haddock, Dave Grubnic. Night fast for Grubnic, 394, 306 miles an hour. Going to put him #1 for the moment. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Paul, last week we remember at Englishtown, Grubnic had the misfortune of having to face his teammate Doug Galetta in the first round. Doug got the win. As a consequence, Grubby slipped out of the top 10 in points coming into this weekend, 8 points out. He says we have got some consistency going for us. We've got a good setup. Now we've got to start cashing in. Maybe this was a very good step in that direction.
Well, we heard Grubby talk about the header flames. Look at that. As that thing launches, just firing on all 8 cylinders. Headers high up in the air. This is what drag racing is all about. Friday night under the lights here in Thunder Valley. It is a great show.
Well, let's take a look as we watch the rest of Grubby's run. And now he's out of the car at the top end. The points, 7th through 11th. Dave Grubnic, 8 points out of 10th. And again, 10th so important.